Welcome to Behavioral Health Today, a podcast brought to you by the Triad Network. This podcast is designed to share trending topics occurring within the world and our communities and bring them a behavioral and mental health perspective. Welcome to Behavioral Health Today. I'm your host, Peter Fenger, and today I'm joined by Christi Myers. Christi is the founder and CEO of Flow Integrative. With nearly 2 decades of experience as a paramedic, Christi has served in high-impact roles, from working with the Department of Defense to training the next generation of EMS professionals as a faculty member and assistant director of emergency medical services at Victor Valley College. Her personal journey with PTSD and firsthand experience with the challenges faced by emergency responders led her to establish Flow Integrative, a groundbreaking center dedicated to destigmatizing psychedelic therapies for mental health and well-being. Through her leadership, Flow Integrative has become a pioneer in employer-driven ketamine infusion healthcare, reshaping the landscape of mental health care and expanding access to transformative treatments. Well, we're excited to have Christi with us today, where we'll explore how ketamine infusion therapy offers a unique, action-oriented approach to healing. And we'll discuss the dual medical and mental health model at Flow Integrative, their treatment process, safety considerations, and the importance of integration sessions. Well, we're excited to have Christi with us today. Christi, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome to be here.
We're really excited to have you on the show. I know I've had a lot of fun looking into and researching Flow Integrative and some of the services that we offer. But I know you have a little bit of a background as a medical professional,
Yeah.
and I know that was sort of an inspiration to you creating Flow Integrative. Maybe you can help us understand what was that inspiration to creating Flow Integrative.
Yeah, well, ketamine actually found me. So in 2016, ketamine entered my classroom. So at the time, I was a professor teaching anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, and the theoretical side of medicine. And we, as first responders, started using ketamine as a frontline medication. So you call 911 and ketamine's come into your house on a fire truck and an ambulance. And so the more I lectured on the medicine, the more I understood its capacity to truly help us as first responders. And at the same time, I was witnessing the mental health crisis in our profession. It's said on average that 8 a day is what we lose to suicide in the emergency medical side of our profession, right? And I was witnessing it firsthand with my students and my peers. I was also active in the field and watching suicide as young as 10 years old. And so at that time, I really had a mantra, and I guess it still holds to be true, is that if you see a problem and you do nothing about the problem, you are indeed the problem.
Mhm.
And so it was in 2020, I was given just the download of information to start building, and I had no idea the capacity of what I had and set out to birth as a means to reduce suffering, evolve our consciousness, and make a significant impact in the way that we work with mind, body, and soul as an approach in medicine, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I want to sort of dive in a little bit deeper about the growing mental health crisis that you sort of mentioned and sort of the rise of the suicide rates. How did that shape your mission to provide ketamine therapy as a solution? What was it about the ketamine treatment that you feel like can address this?
Well, it has multitudes, right?
Sure.
One is unresolved trauma,
Mhm.
how you were imprinted when you were little, and what you've done with that up and until this point.
Sure.
And then the Delta brainwave crisis that we're in, right? That's why everybody talks about we're in an awakening. Well, we're awakening to our unconsciousness. And
Mhm.
so ketamine gives an opportunity for you to actually cultivate self awareness. You can't see the forest when you're smashed against the tree.
Yes.
And so, therefore, a lot of times we're just routinely going through our day, and we call that our lifetime, right? We can do the same day every day for 30 years, and then what? That's where we see these existential crises or midlife crises, whatever we want to call it. But at a certain point, you then realize that you've kind of just been on autopilot. And so
Mhm.
we as human beings have the capacity for so much more intelligence, consciousness, and ability to perceive information than what we're doing currently. It
Yeah,
said we only use 5% of our brain. So then the question becomes, why wouldn't you want to evolve your consciousness?
sure.
And not everybody does want to, which is where free
Mhm.
will comes in, right?
Right. And again, knowing a little bit about the treatment itself, ketamine really offers that opportunity to really take a pause and dive a little bit deeper into our subconscious.
Yeah, or unconscious, right? It's not
Yes.
necessarily, I mean, depends on what you read, right?
Hmm.
If it wasn't for our unconsciousness, we wouldn't have automaticity. There's no way you could be responsible for setting your digestive process.
Hmm. Yes.
We wouldn't make it past birth if we were responsible for our own ability to breathe, with us setting the rate and the depth and the quality. And so there's a huge component of this, right, that is necessary. But what we're not talking about is the rote memorization. And you can see how that gets imprinted very early, right? From birth to 8, we're in a predominant brainwave state that is just allowing information to be downloaded into us that we're witnessing, not that we're listening.
Hmm.
I mean, some books say 6 years old, some books say 8, right? And when you're in a theta brainwave state, you're literally just watching your parents. And then so from when you hit 8 to 15, you're actually demonstrating what your parents' unconsciousness is to them, which is why it can trigger the absolute shit out of them. And so that is one of the most fascinating things, right? And then we demonstrate that, or it becomes our personality as we step into adulthood. And for some of us, we step into roles of being a servant, right? Or working for public service, which then you're actually witnessing the horrendousness of what can happen to people every single day by going in their houses on 911.
Sure.
And so then that causes injury to insult. And so it goes, right? Right, and how much can you sustain that before it starts to become burdensome or before you become
Hmm.
so callous or just lose emotionality completely?
Sure. Yeah. We go through life and we get banged up. And to kind of talk a little bit more about the ketamine infusion therapy, it really gives us an opportunity to maybe readjust some of those places of our lives where we get banged up. So I'll want to back up and I want to talk about the ketamine therapy and help our audience understand what that is. What is ketamine infusion therapy and how does your clinic deliver this type of treatment?
Yeah, well, ketamine when given IV, so it's important to remember that IV is what we're
Mhm.
talking about here specifically. When it's given to you intravenously, it impacts you at your emotional brain, which separates your brain from your body. And I mean, I could dive deep into that, right? But the importance of that is so that you are no longer being influenced by the body as it pertains to the way that you think and are witnessing through, all the imprints of your lifetime up until this
Mhm.
point.
Mhm.
And so it actually allows your consciousness to become the observer
Yeah.
rather than the participant,
Mhm.
which that's where you see tremendous multiplicities of what can happen, from the reduction of suffering to no longer having PTSD to full body activations cellularly. I mean, ketamine is very conscious and it meets each person where they're ready to be met,
Mhm.
which is really important to remember, right? And so ketamine is a constant, the person is the variable. And what I mean by that is if you come in and you've never unpacked your trauma, you still get really throaty and cry just upon thinking about telling your story. You're going to have a little bit more to unpack than somebody who is now in a place of empowerment from their trauma story and has done a lot of work around it, right? People come in and they're like, look, I've done CBT, I've done EMDR, I've done IFS, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, and I'm sick of pharmaceuticals. And here I am because I want to see where my blind spots are. That person is a little further along than somebody who says, I'm this way because 30 years ago this happened to me and I take 7 to 10 antidepressants and I haven't done anything other than knowing that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. We're going to spend a little bit more time unpacking that, or the medicine's going to meet that person where they're ready to be met versus where it's going to meet another person where they're ready to be met. It's self-revealing, it's opportunistic, and it's courageous. Not everybody is willing to look at themselves as the common denominator in their whole story.
Sure. Yeah. And in understanding maybe the process of ketamine treatment,
Oh, yeah.
you're not talking about just one session, you're talking about multiple sessions.
Yes. Well, a series of 6 infusions is very beneficial. Now, with
Mhm.
that being said, there's an initial protocol that came out, and that series of 6 was done every other day for 2 weeks. That's a really heavy hitter,
Yeah.
meaning the importance of ketamine is to integrate. So you can sit with the medicine and it can show you tremendous information about yourself. Well, the question then becomes, what are you going to do with it? And so integration doesn't necessarily have to do with having a conversation. Integration means, are you going to go into your life and show up as a better version of yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, it can be very personal.
That's
And
very,
actually sort of engaging with your website and some of the content, you've actually laid out some steps to sort of help that integration process a little bit more.
yeah.
Um, you even mentioned this window of like 12 to 24 hours where that neuroplasticity in our brain can sort of be molded in really good ways. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about how you're encouraging that integration process with this type of therapy.
And for sure. Well, what resonates with you, right? It's kind of silly to think that it's just up to me what I think you should do. I can hold the consciousness, I can hold the space for you. And for some people, it's literally reteaching yourself your basic needs. Am I fed? Am I watered? Am I rested? Am I loved? Throw some sunlight in there and it's a transformation Tuesday, right? Versus others who are like, hey, I just birthed this new consciousness, right? They are now a more evolved version of themselves. They are more conscious. They're witnessing the world from a new lens. And perhaps they need to have conversation with someone who knows what the hell that means, right? And so now that's more of a conversational piece. That's something where we become your soundboard because we understand what it means to birth new consciousness and for you to have a completely new lens of your reality as it pertains to the way that you've been doing things for however many decades or for some years. It just depends on where you're at in your journey on earth and what you've done so far with it or what has happened to you along the way.
Yeah. It's a real opportunity for folks to really kind of refocus what's important. On your website, you sort of mentioned having one syllable or two words that sort of guide your session. And then post treatment, you encourage journaling. And then also that's an opportunity for you to make contact with maybe a therapist to help unpack things even further.
Yeah, we did a lot of work around that. I mean, our work with Thea and Dr. Bronner's. So Dr. Bronner's offers integration and standard of care, 8 integration sessions. And so that's included as a benefit. Now, not everybody has the ability to pay for traditional insurance. This is where it becomes a monetary thing, right? And this is where there's a lot of moral injury in this space because everything costs money, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to get what you pay for at the end of
Mhm.
the day. The question, I'll back up a little bit here. Have you ever meditated? And if the answer is
Yes.
no, that means, well, good for you, right? But not a lot of people have meditated to where they can sit and just listen to the 70,000 thoughts that are running through their head and start to organize it. And so if you've never meditated or you've never gotten quiet enough to listen to whatever's going on in that prefrontal cortex that's being influenced by your unconsciousness, then you may need a mantra when you're first dropping into the medicine to keep you in focus. Otherwise, people, they're all over the place, right? They're chasing all 10,000 of their thoughts and trying to do it simultaneously. Right? And so, what the medicine's also teaching you is how to harness the way that you think, how to witness the thoughts to see if they're even yours, and if you want them,
Mhm.
if you like them. Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, Peter, right? I could tell you what I think about you, and that's me presumptuous based off of an initial meeting. If you are able to get quiet, go within and listen to yourself, it's a whole different story because now it's coming from within and it's not contestable,
Mhm.
but it is decisive. Meaning, oh, are you going to do anything about it? If the medicine's like, hey, maybe you should exercise more. Hey, maybe you have a powerful relationship with sugar. Are
Right.
you going to do anything about it? And so, this is where free will and that argument comes in. It's a very fascinating topic. But to go full circle, to have a mantra is important if you've never gotten quiet before and gone within. To
Mhm.
just repeat, "I love you," or "I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe." That way you have a place of focus. And even then, you'd be amazed at how many people lose a mantra and go right back to the chaos of their thinking.
Sure.
And so
Right.
it starts to teach you how to pay attention. And then attentions allow you to set intentions. Then intentions are no tension, which is surrender. It's a debreeding process, right?
Mhm.
Which is where that a series of infusions becomes important. And we can show, I mean, a deep dive with a series of 6 is great. But for some people, 6 sessions get you to a place of neutrality or what I refer to as a 0 point.
Yeah.
I just had a gentleman the other day. He's like, Christy, those 6 sessions got me to 1996.
There's more to unpack.
I'm like, yeah, we still got more stuff to unpack, right? Or,
Yeah.
and what I mean
Yeah.
by that is my role in the medicine is to hold
Mhm.
conscious space.
Yes. Yeah, and I hear it in your delivery. I really hear how you have a really good ability to really give people that space to really let the medicine work, as well as respecting the medicine to really unravel in that way. But I do know that you guys have a little bit of structure around this. I want to talk a little bit about your dual model approach that
Uh,
blends both medical as well as mental health practices. You sort of walk our audience what that looks like.
Yeah, and so the initial intake process is really important to me. My background is 20 plus years in medicine, right?
Right.
Now, I've seen a lot of stuff. I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't. And I could, as a 20 plus year paramedic, we're not even allowed to diagnose an open femur fracture, right? Like, you're like, I see open bone. I see shortening. I see rotation. It's obvious deformity. We still don't say
Right.
it's a femur fracture, right? Nobody wants legalities, man.
Sure.
And so what I mean by we created a dual model is the initial intake is with a professional clinical counselor who's licensed, who is expert in diagnosing and really doing a full biopsychosocial scoring. It's
Right.
critical to our mission. It's a helpful so that we show up and we're not ignorant, right? I mean, to know your background, to know your story, we don't open up trauma by any means. If you want to share some of the things that have happened, great. I can hold that space. I've heard a lot of things in my time. However, we can also show that when people are retelling their trauma story, it actually deepens their network. Just like we won't see people who are very fresh in their trauma, because if they're still in that crisis or like really grieving, you can actually cause more harm in that as well too.
Mm.
And so we
Yeah.
want to make sure that we're not opening up somebody who could be destabilized, right?
Right.
And so the first piece in this is that biopsychosocial scoring and the initial intake. And then from there, we overlay it into your medical. So now I can see the imprint of trauma. I can see the manifestation of a lot of different disease processes. What does that look like for pharmaceuticals? What kind of relationship do you have with coping mechanisms, right? We
Right.
talk about sugar addiction. What's your relationship with sugar? What's your relationship with alcohol and cannabis? Have you ever had a psychedelic? Because this all helps us with dosing structure.
Yes.
Same thing with pharmaceuticals, right? I'll tell people very respectfully, no, ketamine is non-competitive, and there are many different SSRIs and SNRIs and antidepressants that are very competitive. And so I would just be taking your money if I were to administer this
Not going to work.
medicine.
Right.
Not going to work. Those SSRIs, I mean, they got you in it, right? And then I open up the conversation to deprescribing. Do you want to come off of those? Are they helping you? How are they helping you?
Right.
Let's talk about cleaning your liver.
Yeah. So between maybe that initial meeting where we're getting to know the treatment plan and getting to know the background, is there maybe a period of time where you have to assess and reassess? And then they come back and say, hey, I haven't been drinking. I'm ready to come back and do this. Am I ready?
Excellent question. And yes, I tell everyone, right? Because here comes the price question.
Mhm.
How much is it? How many do you recommend? And it's like, well, I don't know how many we recommend until you sit with it the first time.
Right.
And then we're going to reevaluate because the medicine's going to meet you and you're going to meet the medicine.
Yeah.
Then you're going to be able to understand, what does that look like? And do I want to do the work?
Yes. Yeah.
It's not a panacea. And damn it, wouldn't it be great if we had one of those, right? Just all line it up.
Right. Right.
One and done, which is not true because you're going to have to unpack you.
Mhm.
And for some of us, we've had to create a lot of different identities around the way that we've danced through our trauma, and whether that was some Stockholm syndrome or battered wife syndrome or
Right.
domestic violence. Let's talk about narcissism and martyrism. And we learn how to dance on eggshells through childhood so that we can appease, and then we're just appeasing people we don't like, but we're forced to love. And so it goes, right?
Yeah.
And so you got to unpack some of that. And in unpacking that, you also have to witness when you're in your unconsciousness and really unlovable.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That can be really deep. That can
Oh,
be very deep. And it sounds like there's a real art form to welcoming or assessing folks into this process.
100%. And
Yeah.
some people, it's not for them. They're not ready yet. But to your point, I had a gentleman who just did a series of 6 infusions, and he's like, you know what? I was drinking.
Mhm.
And I realized because he had his very last session, he didn't drink 48 hours before coming in, which is part of our
Right.
rules of engagement, right? This is
Right.
self-reporting. Everything's
Mhm.
self-reported. So you can also just lie to me,
Lie. Yeah. Yeah.
right? I'm not your mom. I'm not going home with you. And even then, my kids
Mhm.
still try to lie to me. And you're like, I can feel your lies. I don't know people well enough to, I mean, sure, resonantly, but different
Mhm.
story. It was at his sixth session. He's like, I don't ever want to drink again.
Mm.
But it took him 5 sessions before that to even get to a place to recognize that his drinking was self-sabotaging his ability to evolve his consciousness.
Right.
Congratulations. That to me is a victory.
Yeah. That's a huge revelation.
Huge. And it came from
Huge.
him. It didn't come from me bitching about, you gotta stop drinking. I mean, I'll have people call me and they're like, "Hey, I know I just had an infusion. Can I have a beer?" And you're like, "Well, it lowers your consciousness. Do you really wanna do that? And if you feel that you need to, then that's free will." So that's what I
Yeah.
mean by, how are you gonna use the medicine? And if
Sure.
you're willing to do the work, then neither, like, I can only take you as far as you're willing to take yourself.
Sure. And it kind of goes back to what you're talking about is how this medicine helps you sort of come and approach your life from an out of body experience where you're looking at it from a third person and really evaluating maybe how you're aligning with your true self.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
And I can sort of see that come through in maybe how you've organized your business. Again, I want to sort of highlight that you don't require a referral, but
Yeah.
you do have an intake process,
Yeah.
right? So you're open access to everybody, but only, people that are willing to do the work, which you're assessing, kind of make it through this process with you.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
is so important, right? And the referral process is fascinating, right? We're at a precipice right now as a society where, is if I, Christy, wanted to work with the medicine and you are my doctor, I'm scared that you're going to tell me no.
Mhm.
or I may
Right.
be
Right.
scared. I may be
They're
scared that
gatekeeping.
right, or, if I'm scared that you may say something like, that's truth serum from World War I." And you're like, "Ah,
Yeah, there's a
what?"
little bit more to unpack with that opinion.
Totally. And so, now people have to go find it for themselves.
Themselves.
So
Mm,
now I'm on Reddit. Ugh. And not that Reddit's bad, but everybody is delivering their opinion of the medicine, which the
mhm.
variable isn't necessarily the person, it's the provider.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah, it's agenda. There's agendas you're working
oh
through.
my gosh, and
You're
what yes.
you're creating an environment where people are really thinking for themselves in order to engage with it.
Yes.
And you're asking the right questions for them to evaluate whether or not this is right for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yes,
And I think you've done a wonderful job in sort of explaining maybe the assessment process, but what does the actual treatment process look like? Let's talk about that.
for sure. Uh,
So it's my day. I'm ready to have my first session. I understand that this is going to be maybe an introduction to all of this. How do you welcome me through that process?
for sure. Well, we brief you in multiple different ways, right? So we encourage you to come fasted. And that's not because we think that you're going to puke or nausea. We want your energy to be used in the mind, not
Yes.
digesting pot roast. And
Yeah, not on my gut.
totally. And so
Hmm.
that also starts teaching you about yourself. I'm
Hmm.
so hungry.
Yeah.
uh, we don't want you to be starving. We don't want you to be hangry. We want you to be fasted enough to receive the medicine and then understand how to reintroduce food into your process, right?
Mhm.
We encourage hydration to the best of your ability. Because I mean, I can even see in your vessels how dehydrated you are, how viscous your blood is, and all these different things that show me your relationship with water, which again, we're all basically like house plants with emotions, right? Some of us are spiritus sancti and others are philodendrons. But either way, right? I mean, water's important to your overall health. Anyways,
Mhm.
so we require our sessions, or we have our sessions 2 hours in length, which I think is really important because it allows you to come in and settle in.
Yeah.
And whether that's intentions or you just want to unpack a little, or you just need a minute to drop in and meditate and shake off the five freeway, it's important to have that window beforehand so that we're not just dropping you in and you're out the door, right? And then at that time, we start the IV and we really go over reinforcing that you are safe, the
Mhm.
importance of a mantra if you want to just try to stay focused while you're in that window of when the medicine's coming on board, and then the landing process. So what does that look like to just gently call you back and allow you to come back into your body and to land, and then the opportunity for you to integrate, whether that's through conversations or if it's inward or if it's through journaling, or sometimes people are just right back in it, right? They're like, look at that, 30 missed calls. And so for some, I mean, that is their timeout.
Mhm.
There's nothing more beautiful than the fact that you can just block out 2 hours to truly reset yourself and then
Mhm.
go back into your grind. Because for some of us, that's what we are, right? Some of these high functioning, or, some of the CEO realm,
Sure.
$200 million companies, you got some responsibilities. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's where we also find it really incredible for postpartum and for
Mhm.
mothers of young children. You come have a 2-hour timeout, and then you're literally can show back up without just
Mm.
being in complete deficiency mode, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You're talking about it, how it can be an opportunity for folks to reset.
To come out of
Yeah.
survival.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Continuing education is both a requirement and a learning opportunity, but finding the right CE provider can be challenging. AATBS, a triad company, offers continuing education for psychologists, social workers, marriage and family therapists, counselors, and behavior analysts. CE courses are available both individually and as part of our new All Access Pass. All Access Pass provides a library of over 250 unique courses. That's more than 800 hours of CEs, with new courses being added every month. As a special offer, Behavioral Health Today listeners can save 15% on CE purchases. Visit us at aatbs.com/BHT and enter promo code BHT15 during checkout. That's aatbs.com/BHT. Check out our library and check off your CE requirements today.
Also know that you guys offer other therapies, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we might be able to do this in tandem.
Yeah.
So you're doing ketamine therapy as well as name the other ones: fibroacoustic, as well as regenerative musculoskeletal healing. You guys offer that as well. How does that work? You guys are using it with the ketamine therapy.
Yeah, so they can be used in conjunction or standalone. So we have a vibroacoustic therapy bed that has 4 transducers. So you have an opportunity to sit with the medicine or to lay with the medicine.
Okay.
And then we use PEMF on top of that. So it's Earth's magnetic frequencies. We're using the Schumann frequencies. It's a nice heated bed that emits about 7.8 hertz, which is what Earth generates for us naturally.
Yeah, really connecting your body
Mhm.
back in with its natural settings.
Yes, and for some, I mean, if we're using it, and the vibroacoustics, like I just ran a session yesterday, the music that you're listening to is now being experienced physically through the vibroacoustics through transducers. So as you're hearing it, your body's also repatterning and feeling it,
Wow.
which is really beautiful for people who are somatically holding trauma, right?
Yes.
For some of us,
Interesting.
it's neurological. For some of us, it's physiological. Either way, it's still impacting our overall human being. And so that's also part of the process is figuring that out. And then the regenerative cellular therapy, we can break up adhesions and scar tissue. I've had people just start spontaneously crying when I'm breaking up adhesions in their shoulders, but that's where they were storing their divorce.
Yes.
Uh, and so it's fascinating when you look at the somatic side. And quite honestly, it feels like we're a couple decades ahead of science, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we've
Come
seen
on,
some pretty
guy.
incredible innovation happening from a somatic side toward healing. Beyond just somatic therapy, we've seen electropulse therapy and stuff like that. It's really interesting that you're integrating some of those others, especially when, again, folks just aren't that cerebral into themselves. Those other modes of healing can really help promote them or get them to another level and letting the body sort of naturally heal.
Yeah, and it's a stepped up process, right? So before the medicine, we may have you just do the vibroacoustic therapy because it's allowing you to actually feel your body. Uh, I'm sure as you are aware, some people can disassociate, right? So profound abuse in childhood teaches you really early how to separate mind from body.
Mm,
And so you can be a full functioning adult and have no connection to your body because you've had to separate from it for so long as a means of survival.
wow.
And so how do you repattern your relationship with that? And it helps people work through even startle responses.
Wow.
Yeah,
Man, again, the depths of healing. Again, you've named off so much that really connects with some of those detailed traumas in people's bodies. So it's pretty incredible, that your one experience can really treat a number of those areas.
right. Well, so I was going to say, I spent a lot of time with this medicine,
Yeah.
really contemplating it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the safety around this,
Yeah.
because I know you guys are using a lower dose. You
Mhm.
have this period of 2 hours, but there's still some safety around it. You guys are encouraging either somebody to get a ride and or have a carpool to sort of aid them in this process. Talk to me about the safety of ketamine therapy.
Ketamine is safer than sugar.
Mhm. Crazy.
So crazy, right? Well, it depends on
Mhm.
how you look at it. I don't see
Yeah.
anybody on the cupcake aisle running interference about how many of those you're gonna eat and how many per day. Anyway, so ketamine safety profile. There has never been a reported case of ketamine causing death or harm in a medical setting. If you look at ketamine done recreationally, the only time you ever see ketamine becoming made mention is during poly drug use, which is usually alcohol related, right? Which is a central nervous system disruptor, and so it goes. The reason we ask you not to drive, for some people, they're in such a blissful state or in awe that you're literally, it's not, there's not an incapacitation, right? Like me and you could go right now and totally normalize having mimosas, right?
Yeah.
It is an unnecessary risk, right, for you as the person. Plus, it puts you into survival again.
Mhm.
If I have this amazing experience where I am part of this cosmic oneness of unconditional love, and then I hop back behind the wheel and I'm on the 5 freeway of just people,
Right.
you're back in it, or you can at least see how you have the capacity to put yourself back into that default mode network of hurry and worry and speed and
Mhm.
aggression.
Mhm.
And so now it becomes something where like I have some that are like, I want a quiet Uber. I don't want my family member driving me. Sometimes the family
Yeah.
members are the triggers, right?
Okay. Mhm.
And I want to go home. I've had moms that are like, I'm not going home. I'm getting an Airbnb.
Mhm.
I'm not going, because you also
Yeah.
then have the potential you're going home to a show, right? You're like, oh,
Sure.
there's dishes everywhere. Everybody needs dinner.
Mhm.
So you're right back in this throttled self
Sure.
when you're trying to be more namaste.
Yeah, yeah. So really that protocol that you're creating is really more so to the integration post session than it really is about, hey, you're not okay to drive a car. You actually might be okay. Some might not be. Everybody's going to be individual. But really it's an extension of taking that experience, really integrating it into your life because for some it just might be that life transforming.
Right. It is.
Yeah.
Well, it's where are you ready?
Hmm.
You know? And for some of us, we've also memorized the hamster wheel.
Mm,
And I mean, I can speak to it because I have lived it, right? I mean, I
sure.
can see when I'm in these cyclic behaviors. I can see the trauma loops. I can see how you get pulled in. I mean,
Yeah.
I've lived a lot of lifetimes in this lifetime, and I know that is part of my mission here on Earth now is to be able to just language to the greatest of my ability, how people can move through their own understanding of
Mhm.
their consciousness and as a byproduct reduce suffering.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it really kind of comes out with this vision that you have about how this medicine can be used safely, as well as with a lot of intention behind the protocol of being engaged with it.
And
Yeah.
in the beginning everyone would ask me like, how are you going to scale? There's this huge race to scale.
Yes.
No, just a little background. I had no background on business before I started this. This was
Uh-huh.
literally like the direct download of you need to start building. I started building, serving the medicine. Protocols is my background as a creator, right? I'm an implementer. I love on the fly. I love adaptability. I love all these things. Well, then the business side of it is interesting. There's a lot of moral injury in that space. There's a lot of
Mm,
just grossness in that space.
yeah.
There's also a lot of lessons, and
Mhm.
I'm very grateful for those. Even though I was in hard knocks business school for about 4 years.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
how do you scale it, right? And
Mhm.
so right now, what my mission truly has become is to take everything that we've learned and empower as many practitioners as we possibly can,
Right.
this foundation, this methodology, this understanding, because the
Sure.
learning curve is steep, right? Unless you are a doctor that really wants to sit with this medicine, meaning you're going to watch it day in and day out and not on a part time basis as an additional revenue stream,
Mhm.
and you really want to embody it, it can take you 1 to 3 years.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And I sort of want to piggyback on what you're saying here I know that you offer trainings
Mhm.
of this ketamine process and the ketamine therapy to both medical practices as well as physicians. So, in sort of your goal of expanding access to this type of medicine, talk to me a little bit about the training that
Yeah.
you do with folks.
And the training also goes for mental health, right? I just had a woman
Hmm.
reach out to me yesterday for her internship. To be
Great.
able to come and learn. And this is where it's an absolute yes, right? I mean, we had
Mhm.
LPCCs in-house,
Um,
interns to be able to hold that space,
yeah,
especially if it's a heavy client, something that is
yeah,
above my capacity. And we talk about that, during the diagnoses, like, hey, this is going to be some pretty heavy unpacking. And then I call in, more the different specificities.
sure.
It's for the doctors and practitioners. We offer a 1-day training if you just want to get your feet wet and really see if this medicine is for you. A lot of the trainings right now are virtual and they really don't talk about the clinical administration. So that's where I've really filled or met that need to get your hands on the medicine, to actually witness what it looks like to drop someone in, the intake process, the medical, to really
Mhm.
see if this is what you want to do. It's
Mhm.
anticipated 30,000 ketamine clinics are going to come online by 2030. You want to talk about some
Wow,
variability, right?
that's big.
And and again, one of the things that nobody's talking about, or I guess where I really want to make people aware, is that everyone is practicing
Mhm.
and it's at the mercy of the people.
Mm,
And so if that's
right,
the case, then we really need to just say, hey, I'm practicing. I'm going to offer this for a much lower rate rather than me thinking I'm expert in this
sure.
when I haven't even sat with it. So that's another interesting piece, right? So I built in
Right.
a model for doctors to be able to sit with the medicine,
Mm,
for you to truly understand what your people are experiencing. Because remember, we're separating that reptilian part of our brain
mhm.
and we're coming out of survival long enough to allow consciousness to come in and allow us to witness ourselves from a higher state of awareness. It is
Mm,
very spiritual in the debreeding process. And whether that's a triggering word or not, there is a lot of spirituality around ketamine infusion therapy when it
sure.
enters the bloodstream and where it's separating us from our reptilian brain. But that reptilian brain is the limbic system. It is the emotional brain. It is where consciousness comes in
Right.
and creates expansion. Uh,
Yeah.
and so we've built out a model where doctors can come in and experience the full intake, the entire medicine session, what it looks like to prep and to integrate, so that they can also really see if this is something they want to offer.
I want to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, as you sort of explain that, really understanding that level of experience sounds incredibly important if you're going to be dealing with this with your clients. So it sounds like your trainings are very intentional, both in just being able to experience it, but then also being very intentional on how you're delivering the treatment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the variability with flow. Uh,
Mm,
Meaning there are times where it takes 3, 7, 8 minutes to get somebody into a flow state
yeah.
because their body is still so restricted from being so scared in their
Mhm.
own existence, right?
Mm,
And so it's this really beautiful process of allowing people to relax enough or to feel safe enough to find their flow state, which is also really important because everybody is different.
mm. Yeah, and again, I feel like it takes an artful eye or someone who has a lot of experience in order to understand what that looks like in their patients.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so that's very neat that you're introducing this to folks as well as sort of showing them the minute details that go into sort of delivering this treatment. As you sort of see some of the treatment trends, you kind of mentioned the maybe expansion of ketamine treatment in some of the clinics that are coming out and offering this. I want to talk a little bit about the future of ketamine treatment. Do you have any thoughts on how this might be integrated with workplace benefits or insurance coverages? Do you have any thoughts on maybe the trends in that?
Yeah, it's an interesting area. If you would have asked me, 4 years ago when I first started building, if I would have taken traditional insurance.
Sure.
So when we built out the first employer-driven benefit, we partnered with Dr. Bronner's, and
Mhm.
that allowed us to deliver the medicine at 100% of 100%, which is what I built protocols for, right? And then the moral injury that was occurring was from the majority of people that were calling and asking us if we took traditional insurance. And so I was like, well, here we go. And so I put ourselves into the traditional network, right? And so what I'm able to language for is what that looks like for reimbursement.
Mm.
And if you were to call, it's variability based off the person who answers the phone, right? Which is most everything. It's like, what's your work ethic? And if you call your insurance and say, hey, do you cover ketamine infusion therapy? They'll be like, absolutely not.
Mhm.
And then if you say, hey, do you cover CPT code 90791, 90837,
Yeah.
96365? They're like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Mm. So there are ways, and I know you have some language on your website that might be able to guide folks into that kind of reimbursement.
Yeah, I mean, the variable is the policy, right? Like we're in network with over 800 different
Mm.
policies for
Mm.
one provider. If that just tells you the insurmountable amount of choices. And so PPO gives autonomy. HMO requires referrals. And then
Yes.
you go further and further and further, right? And it's based really off of income. So that is what I also did a lot of work around. Is like, how do we give access to a large majority and how do we use insurance as leverage, right?
Sure.
And so that's where I've now pushed out this nationwide initiative because for doctors who are already practicing medicine, it would be very easy to open them up to serve a large majority based off their current workflows and
Sure.
how we can come in and implement. And my mission
Mhm.
is to give access to as many people
Yeah.
and to empower as many practitioners so that we're
Yeah.
not siloing. Otherwise, we're at risk of collapsing our own structure. The age of
Mm.
Aquarius is here again, right? Like if you look at it, it was in the 60s and 70s, and we really just smear campaigned with the
Mhm.
war on drugs, right? Making people
Mhm.
scared of
Right.
what exists inside of us. It's here again. And I do
Yeah.
believe that that is my mission, is to not only bring intelligence around what altered states of consciousness are and the word psychedelic and how it is not scary, that it's innate in all of us.
Mhm.
And now to empower doctors and practitioners and what that looks like to give access to a large majority with insurance reimbursement,
Yeah.
where the cash cost comes in, right? Now, with that being said, it's also an investment, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I spend that much money on lofty coffee and
Right. Right.
Chipotle. And so if I were to take that and really it's a mindset thing, right? Because
Mhm.
it's sometimes people are looking for ketamine when they're in crisis, right? And that rock bottom is a solid foundation for truly rebuilding. But when you
Mhm.
look at the financial side, it's like, well, what's your commitment, right? And so that's part of
Mhm.
that hamster loop or that trauma bond. We're
Sure.
great that if we're going to send money, then that's going to, you know what I mean? And we're in this poverty cycle. But we also
Sure.
know that if we expanded our consciousness, there's great potential that we will no longer have that lens of reality to where we're
Mhm.
seeing poverty and now we're seeing potentiality. Uh,
Mhm.
and so it's like, okay, you got to have courage to jump.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're really approaching this from two ways. One is that you've done a really great job of trying to meet medical professionals and really show them the benefits of ketamine therapy and in your trainings, as well as like in other engagements. And then you're also really approaching this from this other side of changing the mindset from society as a whole, maybe welcoming folks in. You've created a system where there's a lower barrier of access for you to welcome folks into this experience. And then you're also being very intentional. Like you're not trying to get folks that are going to have a bad experience. You're really being intentional of folks who are going to benefit with this. And then that ripples outward into the world.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's important to make mention that we can't do it without mental health, right? We just partnered with Open Mind Health, who is a psychiatric platform, or it's headed by a psychiatrist, and they're virtual for intakes, diagnosing, and integration. So that's where we're literally bringing this to the doctors with the support of mental health, so that doctors have a biopsychosocial, they have the intake and diagnosing. Now we're putting it into their hands and really allowing it to flourish, but also giving people the opportunity to continue working with a therapist to integrate if they need be, right? Which should be a choice, not a
Yeah.
requirement.
Yeah. Wow. That is very well thought out. That is very well thought out. Well, and again, in all of your efforts, I really do hope that this really expands, because you're an incredible advocate. You've certainly changed my mind on how this can be used,
Thank
and very excited for our listeners to really engage with this. So I want to ask you, for those who are curious or maybe a little hesitant on trying ketamine therapy, what advice might you give them?
Well, we're in an age where ignorance is a choice, meaning there is so much intelligence out there about the safety and the efficacy of ketamine as a whole, right? And so I know I even did work around it, because people will hear that ketamine is a horse tranquilizer. You're absolutely right. It is. It's an amazing medicine for veterinarians. It's amazing. And it truly allows animals to not suffer. But that's also given a certain dosing structure and the way that they are using it. And then you look at the safety profile of conscious sedation, right? And I just did a video on this on LinkedIn. We use it off label every single day in the emergency room for pediatrics. If you were to have a compound fracture, you needed a bone set, instead of me taking you to the OR, I'm going to give you a large amount, way more than I give you in therapy. And I give it immediately, right? It's a rapid IV push. You're separated from your body. We slam your bone back into place. And next thing you
Oof.
know, you're out in the lobby.
Wow.
And so we use ketamine so much.
Yeah.
It's such an amazing medication. It's older than I am, right? It's 50 plus years old. And so it then comes down to, like, ask yourself the question, why do I feel this way about ketamine? Is this my truth, or is this my trauma? Because if we have ignorance around it, or we can't speak from truth about it, then we should not have presumptions and even discouragement. It's very fascinating to see how this medicine can truly help us evolve our consciousness, and what that can do also for young people and for those that are at end of life, and what that means to be at peace with death.
Wow. Yeah, that's really special. Again, you talk about for young people, I mean, the work that they do then carries with them the rest of the life.
Wow.
And you talk about the stages of death. Being able to come to peace with yourself is the goal of end of life. So really, to have a tool that can really bring people to a place can be highly beneficial.
Highly beneficial.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's courage to surrender, right? It's courage to let go. It's courage to do some research. Well, eh, it's important to just do your due diligence and to have those phone calls with clinics. You'll know who you resonate with. That's another reason why I'm really pushing this as an implementation process, right? So that people know
Sure.
that practices are powered by flow. That is our initiative.
Sure.
Powered by flow means that not only they've been trained, they understand the medicine, they've sat with it. It's the different methodologies and approaches, the dosing structures, so that there is a mindful approach to their healing, right? And to ask doctors some questions around it, and
Yeah.
do your due diligence. It's kind of, we do it when we're car shopping.
Right. Right. Right.
At least I know I do.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about the relation aspect, right? You're coming to folks and coming together in order to administer this medicine and having that deeper understanding of each other can really enhance the experience.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When people ask me what my process is, right? And I'm like, well, first you have to feel safe with me. Uh,
Mhm.
and then I'll introduce you to our LPCC. Then and then there's a process, right, that
Yeah.
continuously unfolds, but to make sure we're resonant, right, and that our delivery is what they're looking for. Not everybody wants that, right? To go within and to become more self-actualized and aware. Some people just want to sit with it and they're in and they're out and that's it. And that also is a different realm of consciousness developmentally. That's perfect because that's what they chose.
An incredible experience, truly. You've painted a really wonderful picture of ketamine therapy, its benefits, as well as you've got a really keen ability to hold space without judgment as well for folks to really come into this. And again, there's so much intention based on the assessment process that I think that folks that work with you come away with a really great experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, ketamine is a mirror. And
Mhm.
so one of the greatest gifts is that the only way that I can witness it is through the lens as an observer and to also be the witnesser. So, what people are healing in themselves is also directly being healed in all of us.
Mhm.
And so, to hold that space, it truly is an honor to be able to be that consciousness for people to expand and to come to their own conclusions.
Yeah, yeah, and that transformation ripples out, as you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
It ripples out. Well, I am very excited for our listeners to learn more about how they can connect with Flow Integrative. I know you not only offer your sort of in-source services, but you also have your trainings. Tell your listeners where they can follow up with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm even launching training to be able to come to doctors' offices and spend 3 days fully implementing. So there's opportunity for you to come to us, for me to come to you. And that's if we want to empower the practices with ketamine infusion therapy versus the ability to actually come and work with us as a client. And so our location's in Encinitas. You can find that at flowintegrativeketamine.com. And then for doctors and practitioners who are looking for the training or full implementation and to have me come out, that's flowintegrative.org.
Yeah, yeah. And again, just to our listeners, I want to sort of echo the information on Christi's website is vast and important as well as incredible. You guys do a wonderful job. You have an incredible FAQ page that does a very nice job of walking folks through the ketamine process. Your blog was very interesting. I think you guys have a couple blog posts on the actual process from beginning to first session to post treatment that I thought was very helpful. And again, a lot of very good, well-researched information on some of the benefits of ketamine treatment and some of the symptoms that, you guys are trying to address.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Christi, I've really enjoyed our time today. Again, just seeing and having a chance to talk with you, I can really feel, your heart of being able to provide space. You've done a really good job of trying to create a different narrative for ketamine. It is not just, a psychedelic drug where people get high and they drink alcohol. This can be a very transformative experience for folks, and you've done a very nice job of laying that out. So I appreciate your time today.
I really appreciate that. It means a lot because that is what we set out to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're doing great work. And, as your efforts in training as well as advocacy ripple out, I really hope that we can see sort of a change in our lifetime around ketamine therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
And I want to thank you, our listeners, for taking the time to join us. As always, the resources for this episode and an archive of all of our episodes can be found on our webpage at triadhq.com/pht. Also want to remind you that if you like our show, please give us 5 stars and leave us a review. You can also watch us on YouTube at Behavioral Health Today, and you can follow us on all of our socials, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, and more. And we look forward to having you back with us next time on Behavioral Health Today. We appreciate all the support from our community, and if you like our show, one of the best ways you can support it is by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a review. Behavioral Health Today is a podcast part of the Tried Behavioral Health Network, all rights reserved.